Principles for the visual design. Beauty is our common pursuit in our lives, work, and studies. In educational design, whether it's prototype design, PPT design, poster design, or video design, we all hope to achieve visual beauty that can help improve learning efficiency. This involves visual design. American designer Robin Williams proposed in her book, The Non-Designer's Design Book, that the four basic principles for visual design are proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast. The principle of proximity involves grouping related items. Move them physically close to each other so the related items are seen as one cohesive group rather than a bunch of unrelated bits. If multiple items are in proximity, they will be seen as one visual unit rather than separate elements. If certain information or groups are not related to each other, these elements should not have proximity. This helps organize information, reduce clutter, and offer readers a clear structure. The fundamental purpose of proximity is to organize. Simply grouping related elements into closer proximity automatically creates coherence and organization. If the information is organized, it is more readable and aesthetically pleasing. It is better to avoid too many separate elements on a page. Avoid leaving equal white space between elements unless each group is part of a related subset. Don't create relationships with elements that don't belong together. If they are not related, move them apart from each other. Don't stick things in the corners or the middle just because the space is empty. The principle of alignment states that nothing should be placed on the page arbitrarily. Every item should visually connect with something else on the page, creating a clear, refined, and refreshing appearance. Unity is an important concept in design. All elements on the page should look unified, connected, and related to each other, and there should be some visual link between individual elements. When items are aligned on the page, it results in a stronger cohesive unit. Even when aligned elements are physically separated from each other, there is an invisible line that connects them, both in your eye and in your mind. The fundamental purpose of alignment is to unify and organize the page. Be conscious of where you place elements. Always find something else on the page to align with, even if the two objects are physically far away. Avoid using more than one text alignment on the page. Avoid a centered alignment unless you try to create a more formal, consciously sedate presentation. Choose a centered alignment consciously, not by default. The principle of repetition states that repeat some aspect of the design throughout the entire piece. The repetitive element may be a bold font, a thick rule line, a certain bullet, a design element, color, format, spatial relationships, etc. Repetition adds orderliness and enhances unity. Repetition is very useful on one-page pieces and is critical in multi-page documents. The purpose of repetition is to unify and add visual interest. Do not underestimate the power of visual interest of a page. If a piece looks interesting, it is more likely to be read. Avoid repeating the elements so much that it becomes annoying or overwhelming. The principle of contrast states that various elements of the piece draw a reader's eye into the page. Contrast is one of the most effective ways to add visual interest to your page, creating an organizational hierarchy among elements. Contrast can be created in various ways. You can contrast large type with small type, a thin line with a thick line, a cool color with a warm color, a graceful old-style font with a bold sans serif font, a horizontal element with a vertical element, widely spaced lines with closely packed lines, a small graphic with a large graphic. Contrast has two purposes, and they're inextricable from each other. One purpose is to create interest on the page. If a page is interesting, it is more likely to be read. The other is to aid in the organization of the information. If you're going to contrast, do it with strength. Avoid contrasting a sort of heavy line with a sort of heavy line. Avoid contrasting brown text with black headlines. Avoid using two or more similar typefaces. These four basic principles are interconnected and generally need to be considered simultaneously. The above four basic principles mainly focus on the form aspect. Another important element of visual design is color. How do you use color for visual design? Next, we will briefly explain the color wheel and how to use it. The color wheel begins with red, yellow, and blue, viewed as the primary colors because they're the only colors you cannot create. If you take your watercolor box and mix each of these colors with an equal amount of the one next to it, you'll get the secondary colors green, purple, and orange. By filling the empty spots in the color wheel, tertiary colors are obtained, forming a color wheel consisting of 12 basic colors, as shown in the figure. With this color wheel, you can create combinations of colors that are guaranteed to work together. Colors that are opposite on the color wheel are complements. Due to their strong contrast, the best combination is to use one as the main color, and the other as an accent color, such as blue and orange, red and green, yellow and purple, lime green and violet, bluish purple, and yellow-orange, aqua, and red-orange, etc. A set of 3 colors equidistant from each other always creates a triad of pleasing colors. Red, yellow, and blue is an extremely popular combination for children's products, and this combination is called the primary triad. Green, orange, and purple form the secondary triad, and there are also red-orange, lime-green, bluish-purple triad, yellow-orange, aqua, violet triad, etc. Another form of a triad is the split complement. Choose a color from one side of the wheel and find its complement directly across the wheel, but use the colors on each side instead of the complement itself. However, instead of using the complementary color directly, use the colors on both ends of the complementary color. This creates a combination that has a little more sophisticated edge to it. An analogous combination is composed of colors next to each other on the wheel. No matter which 2 or 3 you combine, they all share an undertone of the same color, creating a harmonious combination. Combine an analogous group of colors with various tints and shades, such as aqua, green, lime green, yellow-orange, orange, orange-red, etc. The pure color is the hue. Add black to a hue to create a shade. Add white to a hue to create a tint. A monochromatic combination is composed of one hue with any number of its corresponding tints and shades. Tone refers to the quality of brightness, deepness, or hue of color. If the tones are similar, it will get a little muddy, and the contrast is too weak. If your design calls for hues with similar tones, try not to bump them up together, and don't use the same amounts of each one. Colors tend to be either on the warm side, including some red or yellow, or on the cool side, including some blue. You can warm up certain colors by adding more reds or yellows, such as grays or tans. Conversely, you can cool down some colors by adding various blues. The most practical thing to remember is that cool colors recede into the background, and warm colors come forward. So, if you're combining hot colors with cool, use less of the hot color. Cool colors recede, so you can use more of a cool color to make an impact or to contrast effectively.